Hey guys, welcome to another Jamaican video, a Jamaican living in Germany. Now in this video, I want to talk a bit about some of the mistakes that I've made since I've been living in Germany. Some really big mistakes and some really small ones that I really should have learned from a long time ago. But anyways, it's all about my mistakes. The thing about living in another country is that it's very easy for you to make mistakes because you're not familiar, for example, with the norms or even some of the laws, some of the rules and some of the expectations that people have. Even without doing anything, sometimes you can actually make a mistake. One of the very first biggest mistakes that I made was in my first semester doing my master's. When it was time to register for exams, I thought, okay, it's an oral exam, so it shouldn't be too challenging, like half hour of just talking, and I'm good at presentations, so it shouldn't be a problem. And so I decided to register for both of these exams, and the dates were like 2 days apart. So one was like on Monday and the other one was like on Wednesday. The thing also is that these exams contain 2 courses. So that was technically 4 exams within 3 days. And I thought, okay, it should be fine. It wasn't. Like, that was probably the worst thing that I could have done. There was of course a lot of material to go over for the entire semester, and this was for 4 courses. Thankfully I passed those exams, but it was like a really, I almost failed those exams. The next thing, of course, is based on my expectation. Like coming to Germany and then knowing that everything is kind of about punctuality, everything operates on time. And I had this expectation for Deutsche Bahn, which is the German train company. Deutsche Bahn doesn't really work as you would expect a lot of times. When I just moved to Germany and then I was taking the high-speed trains and stuff, I was like, wow, this is like so cool. The train came exactly as it was scheduled and departed. And I was like, whoa, that's like so amazing. And then the second time that I came back to Germany, I was like, this expectation was fresh in my mind, and I was like, yeah, punctual trains and stuff, I can get to my destinations on time and I would not have any problems. Yeah. I've had like so many crazy stories with Deutsche Bahn. There was even this one time where I was coming home from the airport and there was an announcement that, hey, the train that would be running from the city to my home city would be cancelled. And I was like, okay, but of course, usually they would have like these replacement buses and stuff. So I was like, okay, it shouldn't be a problem. Went outside waiting for the bus. We were like more than 200, 300 people. And the first bus came and then there was a second bus. And then after that, pretty much nothing else happened. So we were all just standing there waiting to find out, hey, what's gonna happen right now? And a friend of mine had to come and actually pick me up because there weren't any buses, there weren't any taxis, there weren't anything that would actually take me from that city home. Yeah, I've definitely learned not to put too much trust in Deutsche Bahn, especially when it comes to like important appointments. I always try to schedule like even 2 hours, 3 hours before the time that I'm supposed to go there. And even with airports, I always try to schedule so that I can at least have like 2 or 3 backup plans because, yeah. Now, Germany is very big on bureaucracy. Like, paperwork is king in this country. And I am not really a big fan of having a lot of paper. In fact, I try to do just about everything digital. And living in a country like Germany means that I have the tendency to throw away documents because I'm like, oh, that's just nice to know. This is just information for you, but you don't necessarily need it. I've had so many cases where because I've thrown away a particular document which I thought I would not need, those situations just come up with, oh, we need this particular confirmation, we need this particular letter that we sent to you and all that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, why do you need it? I mean, you have the information there already. And so I've learned from that mistake, which is don't throw away things, like keep them. Even when I think it's just like a nice to know, I'm gonna keep it like even for some time. And that's also the thing is like, it's not just like for 1 year or for 2 years. Like I've recognized that there are certain things where it's like even 3 years later, you might very well need it in this country. So I try to keep everything and I'm very careful to make sure that I don't throw away anything important because, yeah, paper rules in this place. Bike lanes. Everywhere you go across Germany, you usually have bike lanes. And most times they're kind of right next to the pedestrian path. And as simple as this might sound, it's like one of the biggest mistakes that I continue to make where I'm walking and I'm not paying attention to the signs, because sometimes, for example, the bike lane is on the left or is on the right, depending on where you are. One of the worst feelings you can have in Germany is when there's someone on their bike and then they're shouting at you like, yeah, what's wrong with you? That type of thing is like, yeah, that feeling is terrible. A couple years ago, I actually got a bicycle. And Germany is, I find, to be a very honest country in terms of like, even at the university, I will, for example, leave my computer on a desk in the library, go for lunch and come back, and of course it will still be there. With bicycles, it's a completely different story. And that's why it's very important for you to lock your bicycles. And I always do that. Like, if I have my bicycle and I go somewhere, I'm going to lock it. But there's another level to that. It's not just about locking your bicycle, it's about locking your bicycle onto something, because if it's just locked, then as you would expect, like, people can steal it. And that's exactly what happened. So that was like one of my biggest mistakes, thinking that, okay, it's sufficient to just lock the bicycle, but really that's not enough. One of the crazy expectations that I had when I just moved to Germany, or even to this very day, is that I can just walk into certain offices and get certain things done. It doesn't work that way in Germany. For a lot of these places, they have set times where you can actually walk in. Some places, you can't just walk in. You literally have to schedule a meeting. No, if you don't schedule an appointment, there's no way that you can go there. That mistake is like, it's really frustrating. Like, you go somewhere and you want to get something done, and then, yeah, you recognize that you have to come another day. So just to prevent that, yeah, I make sure that I do my checks. I've spoken about this in one of the culture shock videos about like paying with cards in Germany. This has happened to me so many times where I've been into stores and I collected the items that I wanted to purchase and I went to the checkout, and then they scan the items and everything, and I'm taking out my card to pay, and they're like, oh yeah, we don't accept cards. And yeah, that's a really embarrassing moment where like, I don't have any cash. Like, as I mentioned about paper, it's also the same thing with cash, where it's like, I prefer to pay with card. But because I've been living in Germany, I've kind of adapted well to know that, hey, always have cash on you, because if you don't, you're going to be in some trouble at some point. Now, holidays in Germany are special. It's like, I don't know, whenever there's a holiday, I kind of have this feeling like the world is ending. Nothing happens, and before the holidays, like the preparation for, you know, the ultimate end of the world, that type of feeling. And my very first holiday in Germany was, yeah, I wasn't prepared for it, because I thought, okay, a holiday is coming up, but it shouldn't mean much, because like in most other countries, like things are still open and you can still do things. Stupid mistake. Now, this holiday weekend was a really long one. I think it started like from Thursday, and I didn't have much food in the house and stuff. So I just had to be like ordering takeout and stuff for the entire weekend. I definitely learned from that mistake, because yeah, when it comes to holidays, and I'm also gonna prepare, because if you don't prepare, then you're gonna be in trouble. Like, literally, nothing happens on a holiday in Germany. Now, talking about mistakes in Germany is not complete without talking about the language itself, because that's where I've made most of my mistakes, in terms of thinking that I understood something or speaking something that was like completely wrong, like mispronouncing things. Like, the list goes on and on and on. I must admit, like, it's frustrating sometimes when, you know, you're trying to speak the language and you're trying to improve the language, but then you kind of make more mistakes than progress. Like, that's really, really frustrating sometimes. But I mean, I've kind of learned how to deal with that, and I must admit that in comparison to where I was a couple years ago or even a couple months ago, I can definitely say that my German has improved, and that I'm much more confident when I speak the language. Of course, there are like a few mistakes in terms of like grammar and all those different things, but for the most part, there's some progress there, and I'm definitely happy about that. And I'm trying my best to like decrease those mistakes so that I can get to that point of being fluent in the language, which is my ultimate goal. It's really an interesting experience when you live in another country and then you try to adjust to the culture and you try to learn the norms and just to approach life, and then yeah, most times you just don't meet the bar because you make all these mistakes. Like, making these mistakes is like part of the process, where it's like you make these mistakes, you learn from them, you can help your friends who are struggling with the same thing, and someday you can look back at all of it and just laugh about it, that hey, I got stranded somewhere because the train was just cancelled. So there you have it. Those are some of the mistakes that I've made since I've been living in Germany, and I'd love to hear what mistakes you guys have also made, like living in Germany or even living in other countries, And especially from the Germans, like I'm sure you guys also make mistakes, so yeah, let me know down in the comments. And please check out the other videos on the channel, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't as yet, and see you in the next Jamaican video.